सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। नारायणं नमस्कृत्यं नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरये। प्रातः स्मरामि हृदि संस्फुरदात्मतत्त्वं सच्चित्सुखं परमहंसगतिं तुरीयम् यत्स्वप्नजागरसुषुप्तमवेति नित्यम् तद्ब्रह्म निष्कलमहं न च भूतसङ्गः। तपोभीक्ष्णपापानां शान्तानां वीतरागिणां मुमुक्षूणापेक्षोऽयम् आत्मबोधो विधीयते। I am composing the Atma bodha, this treatise of the knowledge of the self, for those who have purified themselves by austerities and are peaceful in heart and calm, who are free from cravings and are desirous of liberation. बोधोऽन्यसाधनेभ्यो हि साक्षान्मोक्षैकसाधनम् पाकस्य वह्निवज्ञानं विना मोक्षो न सिद्ध्यति. Just as the fire is the direct cause for cooking, so without knowledge, no emancipation can be had. Compared with all other forms of discipline, knowledge of the self is the one direct means for liberation. अविरोधितया कर्म नाविद्यां विनिवर्तयेत विद्या विद्यां निहन्त्येव तेजस्तिमिरसङ्घवत्. Action cannot destroy ignorance, for it is not in conflict with or opposed to ignorance. Knowledge does verily destroy ignorance as light destroys deep darkness. परिच्छिन्नैवाज्ञानात् तन्नाशे सति केवलः स्वयं प्रकाशते ह्यात्मा मेघापायेषुमानिव. The soul appears to be finite because ignorance. Ignorance is destroyed. The self, which does not admit of any multiplicity, truly reveals itself by itself. The sun when the clouds pass away. Ajnana-kalusham jivam jnanabhyasad binirmalam कृत्वा ज्ञानं स्वयं नश्येत् जलं कतकरेणुवत्. Constant practice of knowledge purifies the self, Jivatman, stained by ignorance, and then disappears itself as the powder of the kataka nut settles down after it has cleansed the muddy water. संसार स्वप्न तुल्यो हि रागद्वेषादि संकुलः स्वकाले सत्यवद् भाति prabodhe satya sadbhaveta. The world which is full of attachments, aversions, etc. is like a dream. It appears to be real as long as it continues, but appears to be unreal when one is awake. That is, when true wisdom dawns. तावत् सत्यं जगत् भाति शुक्तिकारजतं यथा यावन्न ज्ञायते ब्रह्म सर्वाधिष्ठानमद्वयम्. The Jagat appears to be true Satyam so long as Brahman, the substratum, the basis of all this creation, is not realized. It is like the illusion of silver in the mother of pearl. उपादानेऽखिलाधारे जगन्ति परमेश्वरे सर्गस्थितिलयान्यान्ति बुद्बुदानीव वारिणि. Like bubbles in the water, the worlds rise, exist, and dissolve in the Supreme Self, which is the material cause and the prop of everything. सच्चिदात्मन्यनुस्यूते नित्ये विष्णु प्रकल्पिताः व्यक्तयो विविधात् सर्वा हाटके कटादिवत्. All the manifested world of things and beings are projected by imagination upon the substratum, which is the eternal, all-pervading Vishnu, whose nature is existence, intelligence, just as the different ornaments are all made out of the same gold. यथाकाशो ऋषिकेशो नानोपाधिगतो विभुः तद्भेदाद् भिन्नवद्भाति तन्नाशे केवलो भवेत्. The all-pervading Akasha appears to be diverse on account of its association with various conditionings, upadhis, which are different from each other. Space becomes one on the destruction of these limiting adjuncts. So also the omnipresent truth appears to be diverse on account of its association with the various upadhis and becomes one on the destruction of these upadhis. नानोपाधिवशादेव जातिवर्णाश्रमादयः आत्मन्यारोपितास्तो ये रसवर्णादिभेदवत्. Because of its association with different conditionings, upadhis, such ideas as caste, color, and position are superimposed upon the Atman as flavor, color, etc. are superimposed on water. पञ्चीकृतमहाभूतः सम्भवं कर्म सञ्चितं शरीरं सुखदुःखानां भोगायतनमुच्यते. Determined for each individual by his own past actions and made up of the 5 elements that have gone through the process of a 5-fold self-division and mutual combination. Panchikarana are born, the gross body, the medium through which pleasure and pain are experienced, the tent of experiences. पंच प्राण मनो बुद्धिः दशेन्द्रिय समन्वितम् अपंचीकृत भूतोत्थम सूक्ष्मांगम भोग साधनम. The 5 pranas, the 10 organs, and the manas and the buddhi formed from the rudimentary elements, that is tanmatras, before their 5-fold division and mutual combination with one another, called Panchikarna. And this is the subtle body, the instruments of experience of the individual. अनाद्य विद्या निर्वाच्या कारणोपाधिरुच्यते उपाधित्रितयान्दन्यम् आत्मानमवधारयेत्. Avidya, which is indescribable and beginningless, is the causal body. Know for certain that the Atman is other than these three conditioning bodies, upadhis. पंचकोशादियोगेन ततन्मय इव स्थितः शुद्धात्मानिलवस्त्रादिः योगेन स्फटिको यथा. In its identification with the five sheets, the immaculate Atman appears to have borrowed their qualities upon itself, as in the case of a crystal which appears to gather unto itself color of its vicinity, blue cloth, etc. Vapustushadibi koshaihi yuktam yuktyadava क्षम्यतां वपुस्तुषादिभिः कौशैः क्षम्यतां Hari Om, did we complete till 15th? I think we completed till this 5 sheets, right? Annamaya, Pranamaya, Manomaya, Vijnanamaya and Anandamaya. So anyone can guide whether we completed the 16th? Yeah, I think we completed till 15th. So we will start with the 16th. I will just read the 5 sheets. The 5 sheets are the gross physical structure, the anatomical Annamaya Kosha, B, the vital air sheet, the physiological Pranamaya Kosha, C, the mental sheath, the psychological Manomaya Kosha, the intellectual sheath, Vijnanamaya, and finally the bliss sheath, which is the Anandamaya Kosha. And Brahmanaji had yesterday beautifully explained based on the Tattva Bodha. So, Vapustushadibihi koshaihi yuktam yuktya atmanam anantaram shuddham vivichya tandulam yatha. I think this also we had done. Through discriminative self-analysis and logical thinking, one should separate the pure self within from the sheets as one separates the rice from the husk, bran, etc. that are covering it. So I will just read. Thus, by the art of negation of the physical and mental equipments in us, and also by the removal of the dusty dirt that has been let into rest on that immortal, the glory of the total existence in the manifold creation, the Atman is to be realized as the pure consciousness. When an earnest seeker subjectively experiences this truth, he becomes detached from various sheets, which are his personality layers. He realizes that the soul is different from those layers, and in the constant process of detachment from them, he attains the infinite knowledge and the absolute bliss. He rediscovers his spiritual status as the eternal self. Sada sarvagatoप्यात्मा न सर्वत्रावभासते बुद्धावेवावभासेत स्वच्छेषु प्रतिबिम्बवत्. Sada, always, sarvagatah, all pervading, api, although, Atma, the self, no, not sarvatra, everywhere. Avabhasate, shines. Buddho, in the intellect. Eva, only. Avabhaseta, manifest. Swacheshu, in the transparent surface. Pratibimbavat, just as the reflection. Sada sarvagatah api atma na sarvatra avabhasate buddhau eva avabhaseta swacheshu pratibimbavat. The Atman does not shine in everything, although he is all pervading. He is manifest only in the inner equipment, the intellect, buddhi, just as the reflection in a clean mirror. I think this also we had done. I will quickly browse through the text, although we have completed. The Atman being infinite is by its very nature all-pervading. Although it is available in the cognition of all objects, in the pure intellect, buddhi alone, can we come to realize the self, Atma Tattva, in all its essential splendor. Just as in a clear, polished mirror alone are we able to see our reflections distinctly, although according to the principles of reflection, our faces are reflected everywhere on all objects. And the physics principle is explained in the footnote. According to the physics, light falling on the object gets reflected, and these reflected light rays again get reflected at the reflecting surface. And when they fall on our retina, we see the reflection. This process goes on even on a granite rough wall surface, but we don't see our reflection there. Let me take the example of our own government. It functions from New Delhi, but it sounds odd if you really mean that the government is in New Delhi alone and not in the other parts of India. The government may have its headquarters up in the north, but even in a little home away in the south, the overall hold and grace of the government falls equally. On every inch of the country, it has its sway. Its laws are applicable throughout the length and breadth of the land. Yet, to meet the government, one must go to New Delhi. So too, although Lord, the Supreme Brahman, who is the substratum for all this plurality, is within us as well as without us. It is only in the subtle intellect, buddhi, purified and steadied, that it is to be clearly seen, fully reflected. The body is gross, the mind is agitated over one thing or another, and hence it is in the subtle intellect that one can learn by practice to be calm and steady. In that serene quietude of a settled and pure mind, the effulgent self is recognized, just as we can see quite easily and clearly our own image only in a clean mirror held steady. देहेन्द्रियमनो बुद्धिः प्रकृतेभ्यो विलक्षणं तद्वृत्तिसाक्षिणं विद्यात् आत्मानं राजवत्सदा. Deha, body, indriya, senses, manas, mind, buddhi, intellect, prakritibhyaha, from all this matter, prakriti, vilakshanam, distinct, tad vritti sakshinam, witness of their functions, vidyat, know, atmanam, the self, rajavata, like a king, sada, always. One should understand that the Atman is always like the king, distinct from the body, senses, mind, and intellect, all of which constitute the matter. Prakriti, and it is the witness of their functions. I repeat once again, one should understand that the Atman is always like the king, distinct from the body, senses, mind, and intellect, all of which constitute the matter, Prakriti, and is the witness of their functions. The pure intelligence, the all-pervading Brahman is to be understood as distinct from and beyond the physical equipments constituted of the body, mind, and intellect. For it is this supreme illuminator who illumines the subtle workings of the intellect, the grosser thoughts of the mind, and the still grosser physical movements. In spite of all this seemingly interested association, illumination, it is ever a mere witness and never a participant. An illuminator is always separate from the objects illumined. The subject of experience cannot be the same as the objects of the same experience. If you want me to repeat or reread anything, please let me know. As again, there are so many notifications for the unstable internet. A king is not a participant in the drama and dance in his darbar hall. He is only a witness, and like him, the Atman is a witness of the drama of life going on in this body and in the world outside the microcosmic and the macrocosmic existence. I repeat, it is like a king. The way the king is not a participant. A king is not a participant in the drama and dance in his darbar hall. He is only a witness, and like him, the Atman is a witness of the drama of life going on in this body and in the world outside, the microcosmic and the macrocosmic existence. Subjectively analyzed, self is a witness of the play of matter. The ideas of good and bad, the knowledge of right and wrong, the feeling of sorrow and joy, and the appreciation of beauty and ugliness, our sense of duty and neglect, etc., and the actions of the physical body are all aspects of our inner and outer subjective life. These experiences constituted of the knowledge which we know and also of those which we do not know. That is the positive experience of a thing and the nothingness of what we do not know. The bhava and the abhava are all illumined for us by that one awareness, the pure consciousness. It stands aloof and does not identify itself with what is happening in the entire cosmic order, nor does it identify itself with what is happening within ourselves in the different layers of matter. It is not the sharer of the experience. It is only an observer, like the king in his darbar hall, a non-partisan in all affairs, disinterested in all happenings, and yet all powerful. Rajavata. This is so beautiful. I think I will read once again the whole paragraph. Subjectively analyzed, self is a witness of the play of matter, the ideas of good and bad, the knowledge of right and wrong, the feeling of sorrow and joy, and the appreciation of beauty and ugliness, our sense of duty and neglect, etc., and the actions of the physical body are all aspects of our inner and outer subjective life. These experiences constituted of the knowledge which we know and also of those which we do not know. That is the positive experience of a thing and the nothingness of what we do not know. The bhava and the abhava are all illumined for us by that one awareness, the pure consciousness. It stands aloof and does not identify itself with what is happening in the entire cosmic order, nor does it identify itself with what is happening within ourselves in the different layers of matter. It is not the sharer of the experience. It is only an observer, like the king in his darbar hall, a non-partisan in all affairs, disinterested in all happenings, and yet all-powerful. Rajavata. Anyone would like to share or make it simple to understand for everyone? Kindly unmute and share. व्यापृतेष्वेन्द्रियेष्वात्मा व्यापारी वा विवेकिनां दृश्यते भ्रेषु धावत्सु धावन्निव यथा शशि. Vyapruteshu, while functioning, Indriyeshu, the sense organs, Atma, the self, Vyapari, active, Eva, like, Avivekinam, for non-discriminating people, Drishyate, appears, Abreshu, the clouds, Dhavatsu, when moving, Dhavan, to be running, Eva, like, Yatha, just as, Shashi, the moon. Vyapriteshu indriyeshu atma vyapari eva avivekinam drishyate abhreshu dhavatsu dhavat eva yatha shashi. The moon appears to be running when the clouds move in the sky. Likewise, to the non-discriminating person, the Atman appears to be active when it is observed through the functions of the sense organs. I repeat, the moon appears to be running when the clouds move in the sky. Likewise, to the non-discriminating person, the Atman appears to be active when it is observed through the functions of the sense organs. When the imperishable self sheds its illumination and expresses itself in the life of the perishable individual, it looks as though the self itself is acting. The actions and movements are of the sense organs, indriyas, and are not of the self, the life spark in us, which is the sole nourisher of all life. It gives the organs their capacities for such manifestations. This is very important. Please pay attention. I will read once again. When the imperishable self sheds its illumination and expresses itself in the life of the perishable individual, it looks as though the self itself is acting. The actions and movements are of the sense organs, indriyas, and are not of the self, the life spark in us, which is the sole nourisher of all life. It gives the organs their capacities for such manifestations. So even though it looks like the self is doing all these actions, but in reality, it is not. It is only the movements of sense organs. But there is a life spark whose presence only make these all things happen, but it does not take part. We have to remember that. The steam in the engine supplies the power for the locomotive to pull the train of carriages. It has neither a favor for nor any prejudice against anybody traveling in the attached compartments. The steam has no particular destination to reach. Similarly, the Supreme Atman, when it expresses itself through the body, mind, and intellect, the self seems to act, but actually the self participates in none of the activities of the sheets. It has nothing to gain through any such activities. So remember the word, the self seems to act. It appears like it is acting, but in reality, it does not. So whatever thoughts and actions spark up within and fly past a given individual, the self alone is the substratum for them all. And it is in the light of the self that they are recognized and experienced. There would be absolutely no manifestation or existence of life, either in the individual or in the cosmic order, without the omnipotence of the Supreme, available ever so readily to sustain them all. So although it doesn't take part in the activities, but still its very existence is important, because otherwise there will be no manifestation, either at micro level or at macro level. A person who lacks in his powers of discrimination, a Viveki, does not perceive the truth playing so evidently beneath the play of manifested life, but mistakes the activity of the non-self as that of the self, even though perceptibly it is only an unbiased witness and detached observer. Repeat, a person who has his powers of discrimination, a Viveki, does not perceive the truth playing so evidently beneath the play of manifested life, but mistakes the activity of the non-self as that of the self, even though perceptibly it is only an unbiased witness and detached observer. In almost every one of the stanzas, we are given a comparison without which the mighty and glorious existence of the real self cannot be indicated as the immaculate, ever uncontaminated by the frolics of the unreal. Here, the illustration is that of the moon, which seems to the childish folk as moving because of the clouds that pass in front of it. In a train journey, it looks as though the trees and hillocks of the countryside are moving fast, while actually the train indeed is that is moving. Through a moving medium, even a motionless, steady object looks as though moving. The objects observed gather to themselves the properties of the medium through which we observe. So as we saw in the beginning of the stanza, like when we look at the moon, when the clouds are passing by, we feel as if the moon is running, the moon is passing, but actually it is the clouds that are passing. The moon is, and when we are in a moving train, even the trees and the hillocks, we feel that they are moving fast. But in reality, it is only the train that is moving. The illustration employed here has a very deep significance to those who can clearly meditate upon it. The entire import of the illustration can strike us down with a joyful amazement when we visualize the picture clearly. Imagine an observer looking up at the moon through the marching clouds in the sky. The observer is standing maximum 6 feet from the surface of the vast earth, observing the moon that glows some thousands of miles away through clouds that are a couple of miles away from the observer. And yet the observer cries, "The cloud has covered the moon," or "the moon is running." Similarly, the infinite self, when viewed through the restlessness of the body, mind, and intellect, looks as though the self is agitated and active. Just try to correlate it with chapter 6, Dhyana Yoga, where we feel that the pain, the sorrow, the joy is felt in the self, but in reality, it is not. It is just on the superficial level. It is just the self is never affected. It is never agitated. It is always that witness consciousness. Anyone would like to share? And if you want me to read anything, please let me know. If there be the sufficient mental poise and the required scientific observation of the phenomena of life, the intelligent student can easily recognize that all agitations belong, in fact, to the matter layers in us, and the self is never involved in them. The moon seems to be moving because we look at it through a moving medium. So beautiful. We recognize life as dynamic because we observe life only through the vehicles of its expressions. Looking at a living creature through its physical, mental, and intellectual activities, we say life is dynamic, active, ever pulsating. In fact, life as such is not active. The vehicles thrilled by life act, and these actions are superimposed upon the self, and in this confused observation, it seems as though the self is active. But in reality, the self is self-existent, self-evident. When the mind is agitated, the self seems to be agitated. We do not realize that the self has no such agitations, that it is silent and steady, firm and dispassionate, and that these eruptions are only on the surface of the mind. I repeat, when the mind is agitated, the self seems to be agitated. We do not realize that the self has no such agitations, that it is silent and steady, firm and dispassionate, and that these eruptions are only on the surface of the mind. Thus, upon the glorious self are wrongly superimposed the functions of the different layers of matter. To experience the self without the intervention of the matter sheets is to realize its infinitude and full divinity. I repeat, to experience the self without the intervention of the matter sheets is to realize its infinitude and full divinity. If anyone wants to share or want me to read, kindly let me know, because there is again, unstable internet. Atma Chaitanyamashritya Dehendriyamanodhiyah Swakriyartheshu Vartante Suryalokam Yatha Janah. Atma Chaitanyam, vitality of consciousness, Ashritya, depending upon Dehendriya Manodhyah, body, senses, mind, and intellect. Swakriyartheshu, in their respective activities. Vartante, engage. Surya Lokam, light of the sun. Yatha, just as. Janaha, people. Atma Chaitanyam Ashritya Dehendriya Manodhyah Swakriyartheshu Vartante Surya Lokam Yatha Janah. Depending upon the energy or vitality of consciousness, Atma Chaitanya, the body, senses, mind, and intellect engage themselves in their respective activities, just as men work depending upon the light of the sun. I read once again. Depending upon the energy or vitality of consciousness, Atma Chaitanya, the body, senses, mind, and intellect engage themselves in their respective activities, just as men work depending upon the light of the sun. Every one of the equipments, body, mind, and intellect functions in its own definite sphere, and each one of it depends entirely upon that power, Atma Chaitanya, which by its mere presence kindles life in matter and makes it look as though sentient. The power of electricity is one, but its fields of operation are different. Without electricity, even if we have all the bulbs and switches in their proper places, we do not get any manifestation. Likewise, without the enlivening Atman, no activity is possible in this world, and all the objects of creation would then be, without its grace, a dead weight of matter hanging heavily around like stone, inert, dark, and devoid of any symptom of life and hope. It is that which makes up the life in all, at once dynamic, gay, energetic, and beaming with attraction, although in itself it is not affected by the things and happenings of life which it illumines in its shining presence divine. I will read that paragraph once again. The power of electricity is one, but its fields of operation are different. Without electricity, even if we have all the bulbs and switches in their proper places, we do not get any manifestation. Likewise, without the enlivening Atman, no activity is possible in this world, and all the objects of creation would then be, without its grace, a dead weight of matter only, hanging heavily around like stone, inert, dark, and devoid of any symptom of life and hope. It is that which makes up the life in all, at once dynamic, gay, energetic, and beaming with attraction, although in itself it is not affected by the things and happenings of life which it illumines in its shining presence divine. So without that Shiva Tattva, we are all like Shava. Anyone wants to make it simpler or contribute, kindly unmute and share. The illustration here is from the various activities that start with the rising of the sun in the east. Whatever be the thoughts and actions of an individual who faces the day, The sun which illumines the earth is not affected by the happiness or sorrow of those who are here in this world. It simply illumines whatever part of the globe comes before its power of illumination. So too, at the touch of the illumining glory of the self, Atma Chaitanya, the outer world of activities, is vitalized. The self never gets mixed up with anything which it vitalizes. Whatever be the situation which the sun is illumining, some bleeding war or some boiling tar, the sun neither gets red nor black. The sunlight need never get boiled up with the prevailing sense of hate or heat. So beautifully, simply Swamiji explains. The way the shining of the sun is not affected by whatever is happening on the planets or whatever is happening on earth. It remains same. It continues giving the shine, giving the light in the same way it gives to the animals, to the birds, to the human beings. Its sunlight remains the same on everything. It is not at all affected, whether it is war situation or whether it is boiling tar. It is never affected. It never becomes red or black. In the same way, the self, the Atma Chaitanya, remains unaffected and it keeps on illumining the glory.
The aspect of asangoham is so beautifully brought out here.
Yeah. Could you please just try to have that Prabharaji? That Jnanavali.
Yeah. You want to play it today?
No, that just the one line. Asangoham.
Asangoham, 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 punah punah. Sachidananda Rupoham Ahamevaham Avyayah.
The definition of Avyaya is also so beautiful. It is never affected. It never changes. Even
it
in
never
the
diminishes. Yeah.
Yeah, the literal
never
meaning
perishes.
of yeah, it never perishes. Shall I go ahead?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Dehendriya gunan karman yamale satchidatmani adyasyantya vivekena gagane nilatadivat. Dehendriya gunan, qualities of the body and senses, karmani, actions, amale, pure, satchidatmani, on the Atman, the absolute existence, knowledge, adhyasyanti, superimpose, avivekena, by lack of discrimination, gagane, in the sky, neelatadivata, blue color and the like. Dehendriya gunan, karmani, amale, satchidatmani, adhyasyanti avivekena, gagane, neelatadivata. Fools, because they lack in their powers of discrimination, superimpose on the Atman, the absolute existence, knowledge, Sat Chit, all the varied functions of the body and the senses, just as they attribute blue color and the like to the sky. I repeat, fools, because they lack in their powers of discrimination, superimpose on the Atman, the absolute existence, knowledge, Sat Chit, all the varied functions of the body and the senses, just as they attribute blue color and the light to the sky. Because they lack in their powers of right discrimination, the qualities of the body, mind, intellect, the limitations of the physical and subtle body are superimposed by the ignorant on the pure self. Thereafter, the deluded mistake this real self to be one possessing all the imperfections of the superimposed equipments. I will read that line once again. Because they lack in their powers of right discrimination, the qualities of the body, mind, intellect, the limitations of the physical and subtle body are superimposed by the ignorant on the pure self. Thereafter, the deluded mistake this real self to be one possessing all the imperfections of the superimposed equipments. This non-discrimination, aviveka, is like the misconception which makes children believe that the sky is blue when actually it has no color. It is same like on the water also. We feel when, or on the crystal, when there is some blue color cloth behind the crystal, we feel that the crystal is blue. In the same way, the real self does not possess anything, any imperfection. They are just the superimposed due to our aviveka or non-discrimination. Not only the blueness, but the concavity of the sky, murkiness, misty looks, dusty conditions are all often considered as conditions of the sky. In fact, space appears as having these qualities, but space as such has none of them. An object is not affected by the traits superimposed upon it. And here, when we superimpose certain characteristics of the body and mind on the self-effulgent being, the truth itself is not affected by such misconceived notions and attributes. I repeat once again, please remember this. An object is not affected by the traits superimposed upon it. And here, when we superimpose certain characteristics of the body and mind on the self-effulgent being, the truth itself is not affected by such misconceived notions and attributes. The blueness perceived is the experience of our limited vision when it looks at the endless summer sky. If anyone wants to share, please share. अज्ञानान्मानसोपाधे कर्तृत्वादीनि चात्मनि कल्प्यन्तेऽम्बुगते चन्द्रे चलनादि यथाम्बसः. Ajnanat, through ignorance, manasopadhehe, of the mind which is a upadhi, kartritvadini, agency of action, etc., cha, and atmani, on the self, kalpyante, attribute, ambugate, which is reflected in the water, chandre, in the moon, chalanadi, tremblings, etc., yatha, just as, ambasaha, of the water, ajnanat manasopade kartritvadini cha atmani kalpyante ambugate chandre chalanadi yathambasah. The tremblings that belong to the waters are attributed through ignorance to the reflected moon dancing on it. Likewise, agency of action, of enjoyment, and of other limitations, which really belong to the mind, are delusively understood as the nature of the self, Atman. I repeat, the tremblings that belong to the waters are attributed through ignorance to the reflected moon dancing on it. Likewise, agency of action, of enjoyment, and of other limitations, which really belong to the mind, are delusively understood as the nature of the self, Atman. So beautiful. The ideas, I am the enjoyer, I am the doer, are of the intellect. These different ideas, such as I am this, I am, etc., arise in the mind only when we are in the midst of the activities of the work a day world and of the dream world. For when we are in a deep sleep, we do not have any such ideas. It is only when the mind is available for perception and cognition that we come to know of the things cognized. As long as we identify ourselves with the mind, so long alone can we claim to have the dual experiences in these plans of existence. But when once we have withdrawn ourselves from the mental plan and are in a state of pure consciousness, samadhi, we realize that all the thoughts and emotions and activities of the intellect, mind, and body are not in the self, nor are they of the self. The delusory reflection of the consciousness in the mental pool which agitates with the panting, egoistic ideas of I am the doer, I am the enjoyer, etc., cease when there are no more any thought eruptions therein. So beautiful. So it is again bringing us back to the Dhyana Yoga Atma Sanyam. I will just read once again. The ideas, I am the enjoyer, I am the doer, are of the intellect. These different ideas, such as I am this, I am that, etc., arise in the mind only when we are in the midst of the activities of the workaday world and of the dream world. For when we are in deep sleep, we do not have any such ideas. It is only when the mind is available for perception and cognition that we come to know of the things cognized. As long as we identify ourselves with the mind, so long alone can we claim to have the dual experiences in these plans of existence. But when once we have withdrawn ourselves from the mental plan and are in a state of pure consciousness, samadhi, we realize that all the thoughts and emotions and activities of the intellect, mind, and body are not in the self, nor are they of the self. The delusory reflection of the consciousness in the mental pool, which agitates with the panting, egoistic ideas of I am the doer, I am the enjoyer, etc., cease when there are no more any thought eruptions therein, that is within. The example here is of an image of the moon reflected in a bucket of water, which seems to shiver when the water surface is disturbed. When the water calms down and becomes steady, we do not see the shattered moon in the bucket of water reassembling to form one whole. Similarly, when one has purified one's mind and has consolidated its strength and has reconstructed it to be firm and steady by narrowing down its various unholy, unhelpful, and selfish thoughts, the glory of the self gets automatically reflected in all its beauty within oneself, unshaken by the dualities around and the consequent agitation. So beautiful. I'll read this last paragraph once again, because it is the takeaway of the whole Dhyana Yoga. The example here is of an image of the moon reflected in a bucket of water, which seems to shiver when the water surface is disturbed. When the water calms down and becomes steady, we do not see the shattered moon in the bucket of water, reassembling to form one whole. Similarly, when one has purified one's mind and has consolidated its strength and has reconstructed it to be firm and steady by narrowing down its various unholy, unhelpful, and selfish thoughts, the glory of the self gets automatically reflected in all its beauty within oneself, unshaken by the dualities around and the consequent agitations.
Jai Gurudev, what do you mean by unhelpful thoughts?
Which are not going to help us. Like when we are meditating, we
Irrelevant, irrelevant type, yeah?
I'm sorry?
The thoughts which are irrelevant, like they
Yes, irrelevant. Yes.
Okay.
I think we will close our eyes and we will just contemplate on whatever stanzas we have done today. Jai Gurudev. Brahmaraji and everybody, should I share the chapter 6 right now, or we want to contribute first our takeaways and then just guide me, please.
Yeah, you can share chapter 6, Vila. Are you able to share the chapter 6?
Uh, oh, yeah, just a minute, huh? It is not, I thought I have shared. Can you see the screen?
Not yet. Yeah, now yes. Yeah, we can see.
So I'll quickly browse through the verses. It is so much in line with whatever we have been doing so far in Atma Bodha. Samam kaya shiro grivam dharayanna chalam sthirah samprekshanasikagram swam दिशश्चानवलोकयन् प्रशान्तात्मा विगतभिः ब्रह्मचारी व्रते स्थितः मनः संयम्य मच्चित्तो युक्तासीत मत्परः. Here, as Brahmaraji had yesterday said, that Karma Yoga and Dhyana Yoga, our Bahiranga and Antaranga sadhana. So here, in the first shloka, it is like how we should keep our body, how the external, like the body should be straight with head and neck in straight line, as though looking at the tip of the nose. But here, the main thing here, the Bhagwan wants us to emphasize is that through Karma Yoga, we try to purify our Antakarana, and that also when we are doing Karma Yoga, when we are trying to get rid of Kartritva Bhavana, and then we purify our Antakarana. And then for Dhyana Yoga, which again here it is like we have to get rid of all the Pratibandhakas. Here, when it is like we have to shun all the activities which are going on in our inner world. When we try to close our eyes or we try to keep it open, it doesn't make any difference if our inner world is quiet and composed and tranquil. If our inner world is not composed and calm, we will not be having a true blissful experience of the meditation. So here Bhagwan is, Bhagwan is trying to talk about three different contexts: as a karma yogi, as a contemplative person, and as a jnani. So, and he has given us several means through which we can evolve. As Nanaji had rightly said, that Bhagavad Gita is Yoga Shastra and you can say Moksha Shastra as well. So through mastering our own self, we will be able to have the attainment of that blissful Satchidanand Swarupa. But for that, we need to have some preparations and qualifications required. Like in doing that, we have to be aware about the Pratibandhaka. We have to have the Atma Vishuddhi, Antakarana Shuddhi. Here, Swamiji is pointing out that here, when you say Atma Vishuddhi, it doesn't mean that that self, which is already Sat Chit Ananda Swarupa, it doesn't require any purification. It is here when we say Atma Vishuddhi, it is about our mind, and which again, Bhagwan had rightly said, it is like a small kid. When a mother is teaching a small kid how to behave properly, Shanaihi Shanaihi, where we try to bring it back. When we all know the experiences, right? When we sit for the Kriya or meditation, it wanders. It has the habit of wandering around. So again and again, we have to bring it back the way the mother tries to teach its. So the child within us, we have to take care, and then we have to get the control of our vrittis through, you can say that, knowledge and through abhyasa. And the knowledge of Shastra Vichara, they are the pramanas. They will, so through contemplation and through manana, we will be able to get that stillness and firmness of our mind, and so that we can try to become antarmukhi. We will try to have less and less abstraction. It is like, we can say, like, also our attitude matters, when we are doing the meditation, when our attitude to everything around us is like, when we feel that it is disturbing, somebody is making noise and it is disturbing. But on the other hand, if we see that our son who has come after so many years to home and he is playing the TV, and at the same time when in other room when we are meditating, the same noise will not bother us. But because we know, because it is by our son, and you know that he has come after so many years to home and you want him to continue, so that will not bother us. But in some the stranger, if he is spreading his yoga mat and you are meditating, and he will bother you, the sound, the disturbance. So that here Swamiji is trying to be attentive, that when we try to have that stillness within us, when our mind is prashanta, when it is quiet within. And also he is trying to say here, Swamiji has given more emphasis on karma yoga, doing action without any raga dvesha, without having any likes or dislikes. You try to do whatever has to be done. So when you try to do without any raga dvesha, you try to have that purity. And that happens only when there is non-duality. When there is non-duality, that you can be that vigata bihi, the one who is having, you can say that, who has achieved that oneness. He will the Vigata Bihi, Swamiji has very well explained here, that he is the one who doesn't have the fear of others. He has destroyed his ego. Means he doesn't feel scared neither of the self within him nor the external world. He's like out of body when we go deep into meditation, as yesterday Brahmaraji had said, day before yesterday, that there is a fear of death, and he will feel that what will happen if I go into that samadhi and if I don't come out. But the person who is the true yogi, he is vigata bihi, he is having that he is the same as that super consciousness. He is one with that, and he is that, and he has Shraddha in his Guru Vakyam, and he has attained that through the service of Guru, by doing the service, by doing Guru Shushrusha, by having the faith in whatever Guru has instructed. By doing all this, he was able to attain that enlightened ego, which is not, which is far, far beyond the duality. He has that ego, but it is enlightened ego, as explained by Swamiji so beautifully. Another thing, here Bhagwan is saying that he has to be vigata bihi, mata chitto, mata chitto means he is having, once you have achieved or once you have attained that antakarana shuddhi, once you have become that still and sthira, achala, then you will be able to focus only on me and only about me. And that happens when we try to, whose mind is contemplating upon the Swarupa of Atma, that is Mata Chitta, Satchitananda Atma. And the meditation, true meditation happens when the person is Mat Para also. Means he knows that that there is only Paramatma whom we have to attain. There is nothing else which is more important in this Mithya Jagat, which is born out of everything which is time bound, which is situation bound. So he knows that there is only one thing to be attained, and that is the Sat Chit Ananda Atma, Paramatma. And through service of Guru and by following the brahmacharya. Here it is said that the person is able to attain the Sat-Chit Ananda Atma Swarupa. And as we have seen in the Atma Bodha also today, that we have to have that purity of our antakarana. When we have that Shuddha antakarana, we will be able to, and that Shraddha in the Pramana Vakyas of our Shastra, then we will be able to have. And that Shraddha we can have by the service of Guru, our whatever Guru has said us to do, by doing the prayers with pure antakarana, with pure, you can say that commitment. And then when we do, and when we have the Shraddha in Guru's Upadesha, then we will be able to have that, you can say that we will be able to feel that Upadesha, and we will, that the Tattvam Asi and Aham Brahmasmi. We will have that oneness. We will be able to feel that Jiva is nothing but Satchit Ananda Swarupa Parameshwara only. It is everything, whatever is happening is just at the superficial level. Our inner core is just pure Satchit Ananda Atma Eva, which is always untouched, avyaya.
That was very beautiful, Bela. Thank you very much.
Very wonderfully told.
Wonderful.
I want a little explanation about the brahmacharya.
Can we go to the PDF, Bela? Brahmachari vrate stitaha. I think Swamiji has mentioned it, like Bela has very nicely explained, is the one who does Guru Shushrusha, who serves the Guru.
Oh.
Yeah, who
Can
remains.
you see the screen? Can you see
Yeah,
the
yes,
screen?
yes.
Yeah. Happily eating whatever. Maybe we can read this one two paragraphs. The Vigata Bhi can also be called Brahmachari Vrate Stitaha, one who remains with the vows or the commitment of a Brahmachari. And what is that commitment that implies living the life of a Brahmachari? Shankara defines it in terms of service to the teacher, Guru Shushrusha, eating happily whatever food comes one's way as alms, etc. Bhiksha Anna Bhuktyadi. A person with this kind of commitment does not bother about tomorrow and is called a brahmachari. Since Krishna is talking about meditation, the context in which the word brahmachari is used here also implies an emphasis on the study of the Shastra. So both are implied, which is what she had very nicely mentioned. Therefore, it is assumed that the meditator has done a lot of Shravana and Manana. And how to live a life of brahmachari is also mentioned in this verse. One must withdraw from the various forms of thinking that takes place in the mind. Mana samyamya. And because you cannot withdraw from them unless you apply the mind to the dhyeya, the object of meditation, Krishna says here, thinking of me, may the meditator sit. Mat chitto yukta asita.
Beautiful.
This brahmachari here actually has a beautiful, deeper meaning also. In the second paragraph, he must withdraw from the various forms of thinking that takes place in the mind. Abstinence, brahmacharya is actually considered abstinence. So you abstain from thinking, associating with the other manifestations of the mind, the body, intellect, mind. You withdraw yourself. You're abstaining from that. And where are you yoking the mind? You're yoking the mind to thinking of just the dheya, object of meditation, which is Satchidananda.
Beautiful.
So you kind of unmarry the mind from its usual avocations and you get it rooted to the higher, the highest.
Usually the abstention from the brahmacharya is very, we have been told in a very narrow this one, but this is the best.
You can actually, it includes that also. It is not
That
like
also, yes.
physical abstinence
Yeah.
is not brahmacharya. That of course is included in the definition of brahmacharya, but you can extrapolate that abstinence to mean, to extrapolate it. You can go further and further. And
could you please read the next one also? Thank you, Bela and Brahmaraji, for this clarity on how to yoke your mind to the object of meditation. I think it comes in the next paragraph also, the identity between the individual and the Lord.
This one, no? Matchitta. Matchitta means the identity between the individual and the Lord. Matchitta means one whose mind is in me, Parameshwara. Mai Parameshware Chittam Yasya. The me, of course, is Krishna as Parameshwara. Parameshwara has two meanings and is a common expression throughout the Shastra. It can mean either the Lord as the cause of the world, Jagat Karana, or the Lord in his essential form, Brahman, Paramatma. The word Paramatma is used because the Jiva, the self, the individual who thinks, I am the Jiva, is equated to Parameshwara, even though there seems to be a difference between the two. In reality, there is no difference.
For this small identification, how much has to be hammered, you know?
How much has to be negated?
Negated, that is not hammered, removed, completed, stone, you know, to make the idol correct.
What I would suggest, that very, very beautifully Bela has summarized the whole thing. Tomorrow, maybe we will read through the PDF once before we go to Shloka 15, I think. This is 13, 14, right? Maybe tomorrow we'll use 15 minutes and read up the PDF that Swamiji has given for 13 and 14. And that will give us better assimilation. Yeah.
So Brahmaraji, before we start the Atma Bodh, or
after we finish Atma Bodh, after we finish the Atma Bodh, then we can read this. I mean, I leave it to the group whether you want to do the Bhagavad Gita shloka in the beginning before we do Atma Bodh Manana, or towards the end. Either way is fine. I think we'll do it in the end, maybe, like what we're doing now. And please, any of you wants to share about Atma Bodh or the Bhagavad Gita shloka that we just discussed, please go ahead. We have about 7 minutes.
Yeah, today's Atma Bodha, I mean, we have been doing so far, whatever it is, so much in line with the present 6th chapter. So kindly share, even if it is one sentence takeaway, because our understanding is very, very important. And as the sound, as for the sound, Brahmaraji had few months back reminded me, like when we are doing, I mean, it used to bother me so much during the long Kriya. There was one person who always comes late and then he spreads his, and it used to bother. But the moment Brahmaraji made me realize that it is like we have to accept every sound. So be comfortable, and then it became so easy later on. So our attitude, I mean, everything, it is all in the superficial level, but we take it to so much to the core. We get disturbed.
Asangoham.
Sejal Didi had mentioned a mantra called I Ignoraya Namaha. So when such things happen, you just ignore them and you become indifferent to them, then it will not disturb you as much.
Same
Otherwise,
thing,
the
you know,
mind gets hooked onto that.
when we do start meditation, we observe the sound. We observe the every minute sounds far away, nearby, and all that. And then we say, we ignore it. You know, and it doesn't disturb also. So nice it is. Guruji has taught us that. Sangoham. Wonderful. Punah, punah.
In fact, even Atma bodha, I think in shloka number 8, I think, 18, Dehendriya mano buddhihi prakritibhyo vilakshanam tadvritti sakshinam vidyat atmanam rajavat sada.
Ramanaji, you want me to share Atma Bodh text?
No, I'm just reading we went through the shloka there.
Okay, okay.
This one particular thing that really was very good, was very insightful. The self is a witness of the play of matter. The ideas of good and bad, the knowledge of right and wrong, the feeling of sorrow and joy, and the appreciation of beauty and ugliness, our sense of duty and neglect, etc., and the actions of the physical body are all aspects of our inner and outer subjective life. This paragraph I thought was very, very profound, in the sense, we think only the outside world as part of Jagat, but the fact remains that even our inner thoughts, inner feelings, our ideas of right and wrong, even duty and neglect. If you remember, Gurudev keeps saying, don't be so stuck upon being righteous. It's okay, let go a little bit. We are so kind of cutthroat in our idea of dharma even. So all of them are nothing but our inner subjective life. All those ideas and thoughts, opposite values, perfection, imperfection. And these experiences constituted of the knowledge which we know, and also of those which we do not know. Yeah, that is apart from this. So when we know that the Atman, the self, is apart from all of this, he just watches it like the king watches everything, all the happenings in the darbar. That aspect of asangoham actually becomes so evident over there. So a lot of manana, even after we finish the whole manana session, these thoughts and these ideas that we continue throughout the day, it will somewhere sprout up, maybe in that awareness, when we're going through some situation where maybe you are humiliated or maybe you got angry. This little thought should come up saying, oh, the anger is just coming up in me, but I am not angry. The self is not angry. It is just a happening in the mind, intellect equipment. So that little gap between our feelings and thoughts and the self, that slowly starts happening.
Didi, in Gurudev's Dhyan, Niranjan Dhyan,
Yeah.
it's also on this only, that the thoughts and everything which is coming is a play and display, on the self, it is just the coming and going like a screen, and self is the witness. It's
Correct.
beautiful.
That pause, wonderful. That pause is very, very important. If you take care of that, take the pause and take care of the force, then you can take care of the desires, anger, and pain that becomes the cause of that force.
So we'll stop here today and we'll continue tomorrow.
Yeah.
Om Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Tat Sat Shri Krishna Arpanamastu. Jai Gurudev.
धन्यवाद सर.
Jai Gurudev.